TitleMatchNetwork.com.
What are your memories on SuperClash 3 and Kerry Von Erich, and what was he like outside the ring? We've heard a lot of stories on the Von Erichs.
Once again, I didn't really know any of those guys on a personal basis. I knew Jarrett came to me and said one time, he said, you want to go down to Texas and more or less take over that territory? I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, talking with Fritz Von Erich, and they were kind of struggling down there, and he said, we have the opportunity to go down and do their TV, and pretty much almost like a lease purchase, or buy the, if the territory starts to come up, buy in and get part ownership of the territory, or buy into the territory. And so I just knew at the time that what it would mean was an every Friday trip to Dallas, at least on Friday, and maybe even more than that. And I just, I've always been pretty much a homebody, never liked to travel that much, or try to travel as little as possible. So I sort of declined the offer. So Jerry went down on his own and sort of bought into the world-class operation there and started running it. And still, inevitably, it wound up with me having to come down and work in Dallas a little bit. And that's, that was the first time I was around Kerry. But it was always on just a business relationship, seeing him there at the Sportatorium. Had no idea what his family life was like, or what his personal life was like, or anything. I enjoyed working with Kerry. He was, talk about somebody that, I guess interviews, not fantastic, but just the look and the natural charisma. He could have been a major superstar in this business. It's just, everybody knows the story of Von Erich. It's just really sad. So many self-inflicted tragedies there on that family. But, once again, it's like, it's hard for me to comment on people that abuse either alcohol or whatever, drugs or anything like that, because I've never ever been involved with them. And also I can't comprehend that state of mind or that way of thinking. But it's obvious that sometimes once these people get involved with this stuff, that it literally takes over their life, and they feel they can't exist without it. And I know the SuperClash was a situation where I'm fixed to go in the ring with Kerry Von Erich, and he was just messed up. This was right before a big, huge match, and just to tell you how messed up he was, we're getting ready to go out, and to be honest with you, this was a match to supposedly unify the titles. There was of course the world class title, and I was the AWA world champion, and Kerry was the world class world champion, and we were going to have this match to unify the titles. And I don't know how. I really, to this day, don't know what all was going on behind the scenes, but apparently Kerry had been told that, or had been assured that he was going to win the match and become the unified champion. And of course, Verne, Gagne, didn't want that. He wanted the AWA champion to win the match, which that was me. And so there were a lot of discussions going on right up until match time. I didn't even get to talk to Kerry because he was apparently in-dogging with Verne, and they were trying to come up with some kind of different solution. And we were thinking that, even though we're live on pay-per-view, we were thinking that this match might not even take place. And then, of course, with Kerry being, a little bit out there at the time, it didn't help at all either. So finally, they came up with what they thought was the solution, and that was that the match would be stopped because of blood, and So literally, I'll bet maybe 5 minutes before we were supposed to go in the ring, Verne called me over, and Kerry was standing there, and his other representative was standing there with him. And of course, Kerry was, his arms, muscles huge and everything. And Verne was saying, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." And I looked down, and on Kerry's finger, he had taped to his finger like this big piece of blade, and it was literally sticking out like almost an inch off his finger, right? This big exposed blade, and he's got it taped to this finger. And he's like standing there like this, and Verne is saying, "All right, we're gonna go out there and have this big match, and you guys are up and down this and that." And Kerry's going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and he's getting all ready, and he's got this big thing on his finger, and like I said, his muscles real huge, and all of a sudden he's going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, okay, and and then he goes,
Oh,
and he reaches over and scratches under his arm, and of course when he did, he's sliced his arm open, his bicep right here, a cut about that long, and his muscles are so big that it just split open like that, and blood just started shooting out like a water hose. And we're going, "Holy mackerel!" And so they started try to put a tourniquet on him, and wiping all this blood up, and they got him cleaned up a little bit, and it was just still leaking out. And if you go back and watch the SuperClash tape, you'll see they put his robe on him, and we went out to the ring, and we did the entrance, and as soon as the bell rang, I had to attack Kerry and hit his arm on the turnbuckle and try to make it look like he had sliced his arm open on the turnbuckle there, because it was already bleeding before he ever got in the ring. So it was, I thought, I was really worried about what the match was going to be like. I was just scared to death that it was going to be horrible. But in retrospect, when I watch it, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good match. Kerry wound up being, one of the most gruesome sights, just as far as the blood goes, and it was just a bloody mess. And I thought it really turned out well, even though people weren't used to seeing a match, having a match of that magnitude stopped and awarded to somebody. I still thought it worked out well, and I thought it was a really good match.
what about the Undertaker? Me and Mark.
You mean like what about him coming through Memphis?
Yeah, as far as him coming through Memphis.
Yeah, it's funny. Mark and I were just talking about that the other day. I reminded him of a match that we had because I found a picture. I was going through some old pictures, and I found a picture of Mark standing in the middle of the ring. And he's got this real disgusted look on his face. And of course, he's almost 7 feet tall, and he's standing there, and we're pouring. It wasn't actually me or somebody else. We're pouring syrup all over him, and it was a tar and feather match. And I guess he had lost this tar and feather match, and it was like so degrading. I reminded Mark of that, and he went, "Yeah."
Huh.
We did a lot of goofy things down in Memphis, and then we started talking about he and I had a match at Adventure River, a special promotional match at this big water park called Adventure River, right in the middle of summer, like the middle of July. It was about 105 degrees outside, and we did our matches at TV on Saturday morning, and then we went over to Adventure River. We had a ring set up out there, right in front of the big wave pool, and the object was he and I wrestling, and the only way you could win the match was to throw your opponent over the top rope all the way down into the wave pool. And we didn't think about the fact that the ring had been sitting there in this heat of the day, boiling hot sun for like 4 hours, and we got out there and got in the ring and tried to wrestle, and literally it was like wrestling in a skillet or a frying pan. If you took a bump down your back, you shot right back up. And we were laughing sort of in the match because we were each trying to run and jump over it out of the thing into the wave pool. But Mark and I had some really good matches down there, and he, I think Mark will tell you that Memphis was a very valuable training location for him. And of course, we all know what he's gone on to do.
TitleMatchNetwork.com